Let's talk about the concept of hell. What is it? So, some religions say that hell doesn't exist. Some interpretations of Christianity is that hell doesn't exist. Some interpretations is that it does exist, or there's a purgatory, place of purgatory, and or, and then there's that hell is a place where you'll be tortured for a finite amount of time and then you'll be brought back. And then there's some where it's an infinite amount of times. What is your idea of hell derived from the CTMU?
Hell is simply the process of ceasing to exist, of being intellectually unbound and having your identity destroyed because it is unacceptable to God. See, God, in the CTMU, there's something called the stratified identity. And God can be defined as the highest level of the stratified identity, the level that we all share with each other. We're all united in God. But God is good, and he must exclude evil in order to preserve the integrity of his identity. This is what he does. So if you deny God and you basically you're cutting your line of communication with God because you hate him so badly, then God can no longer see you, no longer wants to see you, and can no longer accept you into himself because he's totally consistent. God is totally, completely self-consistent and will not tolerate his denial. It's just not something that God can afford to tolerate, because something that is perfect cannot absorb or assimilate imperfection into himself. He can tolerate it for a while, but then after a while, he's got to exclude it. All right, so this is what hell is. Basically, your own highest level of identity is telling you you can no longer exist because you're no longer in touch with me. You've cut your own identity in half. You've severed it. It's called the soul, the human soul. That's what these levels of stratified identity are. They're your soul, and once you interdict that, once you sever it, okay, you're cut off from God. That way, your own highest level of identity cannot communicate with you anymore. It can't see you. So when you die and you beg on the deathbed, please take me back in, God can't hear you anymore. That's a terrible thing, and I don't wish it on anybody. But if people understand this, and they understand this stratified identity, and they understand what God is, namely their own highest level of identity, they won't punish themselves with unbinding and destruction. Now, because that's a very unpleasant experience, everybody wants to cling to their identity in the end. It's hellish. People create their own hell by rejecting their own highest level of identity.